Example for your classmates. Josh, you can raise it for clip. Thank you for setting a great example from your classmates. For your classmates.
What time do we have until?
They rotate classes at 10:40, so I usually stop them about 10 minutes early to pack up.
Commodores. Oh, and I haven't previewed this one. Commodores, I ask for your attention once and your eyes are on me. Thank you. For today, tomorrow, and Friday, Miss Scott, sorry. No, your friends. Like, yes, I can't remember his name. Miss Scott is going to be doing a special science read aloud with us. We're very excited about the idea of science. And I'm going to watch, so I can figure out how to do this kind of thing with you after she leaves us. So you are, of course, on your best behavior, because you behave the same way like a Rocketeer no matter who is in front of you. And I just told her about what we started today with our discussion helpers and using these kinds of sentences when you talk about something that your classmate said. So make sure that you're listening, just like we just practiced in our read aloud. And you can add on to each other's thoughts. Okay? Okay, thank you.
Hi, Commodores. Hi. I'm so excited to read with you today. So I was looking for students who want to be really good readers, but also who want to be really good scientists. And your teacher said, oh, the Commodores are the perfect match because you want to be good readers and good scientists. And we are going to work on reading texts about science that are going to help us learn about science. This read aloud is maybe a little different than other read alouds that you have done because we are all going to have our eyes on the text. So I'm going to be the primary reader, but you're going to be the secondary reader because you're going to be following along. So I'm going to pass out the text, and while you're waiting for all your classmates to get the text, you can preview the text, browse it, see what you notice. You'll see that there's some pictures with captions, and there's some headings, and that there's both a front and a back. The front is actually the side. It's hard to tell because it's not labeled which one is the front. The one that says, why do animals adapt, with a question right there at the top, that's the front. I didn't get one. You didn't get one? See if one of your classmates has two, otherwise on this one. Take one, pass it back. Did you still need one? So Rocketeers who are ready to learn can show me they're ready to learn by sitting on their bottom with their legs crossed and tracking on me after they've just taken a brief preview of the text. I want to tell you a little bit about me as a teacher. So I'm the type of teacher that gets distracted if people are fiddling with their pencils or playing with their whiteboard or flipping the paper. So it will be really helpful to me if you sit with the paper flat on your whiteboard or your binder, whatever's in front of you, and track on me or track on the text, and don't get distracted by your pencil until we have to use it. We deal?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So you are studying animal habitats and animal adaptations in science. We are going to read about animal adaptations today and learn a little bit more about that. And as we read, the main purpose for our reading is to answer this key question. Why do animals adapt? Will you read that with me?
Why do animals adapt?
And if you look here at the top heading, why do animals adapt? So the author has posed the same question right here in the heading. So by the end of our conversation today, we are going to have some hypotheses using evidence from the text about why animals adapt. So we're going to get smarter about this area of animal adaptation. We also are going to work on three other things. We might not get to all three today, but we'll get to all three over the next couple of days. The first thing we're going to work on is really thinking about what is this text about. So something that really good readers do. What I know the difference between an okay reader and a really great reader really great readers can talk about the main idea. They can put it in their own words. They can say, oh, the main idea of this text is, and they can tell me what the text is about. So we will work on getting better at that, because that's going to help us as readers. The second thing we're going to think about is, why did the author write this text? Doing a nice job tracking, thank you. And I know that you've already worked on that. So you've talked about how sometimes authors write text to entertain. They're funny, they want to keep us entertained. Sometimes authors write text to inform us, to teach us things. Sometimes authors write text to persuade us. And finally, sometimes authors write text to show us how to explain how to do something. Those are all different reasons why authors write text. So we'll think in our heads, why did the author write this text? What was the author's goal? And finally, we'll think about how the text is structured. So different authors organize text in different ways, and I'm sure you've seen that in your reading. You've seen narrative text, you've seen nonfiction expository text, you've seen biographies, you've seen texts that compare two things. We'll talk about that text structure because as readers, if we can think about how the text is structured, it can help us be smarter readers. We can say, oh, I know this text is comparing two things. So I have to pay attention to how those two things are alike and how those two things are different. So all of these things are going to help us be smarter about science and also smarter about reading. Isn't that cool? So, excuse me. We're going to get started, and I said before, I'm going to be the primary reader, and you are going to be the secondary reader. Your job as the secondary reader is to track either with your finger or with your eyes as I'm reading. And sometimes I'll ask you to help me read, maybe to repeat particular words, maybe particular important words. And I've noticed that students who track with their finger have an easier time following along. I see them nodding and like really following and comprehending the text. So you might want to try that as a reader today. I'm also going to give you a chance to talk about the text, and we'll use some of what you see here. So we'll think about our ideas about the text. We'll think about whether we agree and disagree with our classmates. So you won't only have to listen to me, you'll have to listen to each other's ideas. Deal?
Thank you.
You're doing a great job. Let's get started. Put your finger on the top header where it says, why do animals adapt? Your finger on why, I'll know that you're ready to go. An emergency? Oh, no, I think that counts as an emergency.
And here too.
For Karina when she's ready. All right, does everyone have a text? Great, let's get started. Why do animals adapt? The homes of animals are always changing. What are they doing?
Changing.
Some changes happen in nature, and others are caused by people. When an animal's habitat or living area is no longer the same,
Karina.
that animal must adapt. What must that animal do?
Adapt.
Say it again.
Adapt.
Or change to suit its new habitat. If you had to summarize this one paragraph in one sentence, what would you tell me it's about? Come and talk to someone close to you.
I got one for you.
One right there in the room waiting for you. Are you talking with your partner about what this section got so far? Okay, Commodores, I heard some good thinking as I walked around and listened to you talking with your partners. Do those partners have a special name in this class? Do you call that anything besides your talk partners? No. So, who can share with me what they talked about with their partner, the main idea of this text so far?
Talking with the partner Like snakes and birds, they live in trees. Some snakes live in trees and then some people cut the trees down and they have to gut your animal.
Okay, so you were talking about examples of different adaptations, but that is not what the text is about. You were adding on your own thinking. So the question was, what is the text about so far? You brought in your own thinking, which is often what readers do, but the question that I asked you to stick with just this text. What is this paragraph about so far? Do you want to take a stab at it, or would you like me to call on someone else? Okay, I'm going to come back to you and ask you to restate their thinking, so I need you to listen carefully, okay? What is this text about so far?
It's about so far that animals like that to different places to have their homes.
Okay, so far this text is about animals adapting to different places so that they can live, to have their homes. What's your name? Gustavo. Give me a thumbs up if you agree with Gustavo. Thumbs down if you don't, and just sort of in between if you're not so sure. I'd like to see 100% participation here. Okay, so I see that the vast majority, in fact I think 100% agree with Gustavo's thinking. So, do you see how Gustavo used the paragraph that we were talking about? Because this text doesn't talk about snakes or birds so far. It's just about a general idea, what I would call a bird's eye view. The author's just starting big thinking. We might get to talking about birds and snakes, we'll have to see. Okay? Let's keep reading. Put your finger on the second heading, what is adaptation? I'm thinking as a reader, when I see what is adaptation, that I'm going to have to answer that question. The author has posed a question, so as a reader, you might be thinking about how you're going to answer that question. Adaptation occurs in the body of an animal or in the way it behaves. I see some readers tracking and some readers not. So let's start again. I want you to be tracking on this paragraph. What is adaptation? Adaptation occurs in the body of an animal or in the way it behaves. Some adaptations happen quickly, and others take place over millions of years. The way an animal looks or acts today may be very different from the way it looked or behaved long ago. If you had to answer that question in your own words, what is adaptation? How would you answer that question based on this paragraph? Does the author give us enough information to answer that question? Let's work together as a group. How would you answer that question? So the beginning of your thinking is some animals change. Is that the first thing you said? So some animals change, and the author tells us two ways. Let's locate that in the text. There are two ways that animals adapt. Some animals change by changing one way, and some animals change by changing another way. Let's find that in the paragraph and see if we can answer the two ways that animals change. We'll build on your classmates' thinking. Take a look in the text and then talk with the person next to you. What are the two ways that the author tells us an animal can adapt or change?
Where their bodies change. The first paragraph is
Okay, so that's one way an animal can adapt. What's the second way the author tells us? The body, so they can change their behavior, or they can do a physical change in their body that they can change. Or we will learn about some of these changes here. Okay? Commodores, let's come back together. I posed a really difficult question. And I talked with one of your classmates in the back. So before we answer the question I have posed, which is, what are the 2 ways the author tells us an animal can adapt, we need to be clear about what is an adaptation. Who can give me a synonym, or that means the same thing, for an adaptation? What does it mean to adapt? Wanna try? You just scratching your head?
I think to adapt is when you change.
I like how you gave that in a complete sentence too. That's really nice. So, to adapt is to change. What 2 ways does the author tell us that animals can adapt? Let's share one at a time so we can see if we agree. One way an animal can adapt is,
One way is the way they behaves.
okay, one way an animal can adapt is by changing behavior. Give me a thumbs up if you agree with Gustavo's thinking. You need 100% of participation. If you don't agree, you can give me a thumbs down. If you're not sure, you can give me. Okay, I see 100% of people agreeing that one way to adapt is to change your behavior. What is the second way the author tells us that you can adapt? Right here. What word does the author use? Is that what the author says? Let's go to the text. Adaptation occurs in the body. See that in the second paragraph? Adaptation occurs in the body of an animal or in the way it behaves. So it occurs in the look of the body. It can also be other ways the body. It could be the feel. So it's mostly changes in the body. So you can change behavior, or you can change the physical characteristics. You can change the body. And we'll read about some specific examples of that in a second. Pardon? Can you repeat that?
After that, it says the way an animal looks, it says or acts today may be very different from the way it looks or behaves tomorrow.
Yeah, so the way someone acts, it's a really important thing for us to track on. The way someone acts is that person's behavior. So the way an animal acts is the animal's behavior. So you might say like that, let's say you have a pet at home and you think its behavior is sort of, maybe it's sick and it's acting weird. You would say that animal's acting weird. I didn't, but that's a common thing that we use to describe animal behavior. Okay, Commodores, let's keep reading.
Yes.
Adapting to different conditions. Animals adapt to stay alive. They must adapt to find food, escape danger, defend themselves and their young, or adjust their bodies to hot or cold temperatures. Some animals must adapt to losing their habitat and living closer to people. Animal species or types that cannot adapt to change in their habitat become extinct. An extinct species is one that no longer exists. Commodores, this is a really important paragraph because this paragraph is helping us answer this key question. Why do animals adapt? I want to reread this paragraph with me as the primary reader and you as the secondary reader. And as I'm reading, I want you to be thinking in your head about this question. Why do animals adapt? All right? Because that's the question you're going to turn and talk after I'm done reading. All right? And adapting to different conditions. Animals adapt to stay alive. They must adapt to find food. Rocketeers, or Commodores, I see that many of you aren't tracking. I'm here, adapting to different conditions. I'm going to take it from the top. Adapting to different conditions. Animals adapt to stay alive. They must adapt to find food, escape danger, defend themselves and their young, or adjust their bodies to hot or cold temperatures. Some animals must adapt to losing their habitat and living closer to people. Animal species or types that cannot adapt to changes in their habitat become extinct. An extinct species is one that no longer exists. Rocketeers, turn and talk to your partner about what the author says about why animals adapt, and we'll make a list of those reasons. I think that you're sharing some connections that you're making, but you're not using this text to answer the question that we're talking about. Why do animals adapt? All right? So that's what you and your partner need to be talking about.
Oh yeah, we want to get. Yeah, like
Do you have some thinking about why animals adapt?
They're getting instinct. There's only
Rocketeers! Let's put that together to generate a list. The author gives us lots of reasons why animals adapt. And that's our main purpose for answering this question. Why do animals adapt? There are many reasons why animals adapt. We don't know that the author has given us a complete list. So the ones that you list, I'm going to ask that you stick to the ones that are listed in the text. We're just using the text to answer this question today. I see lots of new hands. Animals adapt.
Animals adapt to stay alive.
Great. To stay alive. What's a different reason that animals adapt? Animals adapt.
Animals adapt to get food.
To get food? Does it say that in the text?
Yeah.
What does it specifically say? How does it? Animals adapt to find food. A different reason.
Animals adapt because so they could get away from danger.
Okay. What good word does the author use for get away? To escape danger. A different reason. Nice thinking, Commodores. Good. Check the text. Do we have all the reasons yet?
No. To check the hot or cold temperatures.
So to adjust is the word. So if there's climate change, so right now we have climate change, and animals might have to adjust, or what would happen?
They get asleep.
Exactly. So to adjust to hot or cold temperatures. Do we have all the reasons listed in the text? Is that all of them?
More.
I see some hands.
Animals must adapt to even so they could use their habitat if they adapt and live closer to people.
Okay, so that's not quite what the author's saying, but that is, you're on the right track. So the author says, let's read it together. Some animals must adapt to losing their habitat and living closer to people. So what is the adaptation there? What are they adapting to? So they're adapting to the fact that their habitat has changed, right? They didn't used to live closer to people, now there's all these people. So I'm going to reword this, and I'm just going to say habitat change. And then in parentheses, watch this. I'll list the examples. This is a fancy thing authors do. So the habitat has changed, for example, living closer to people. What's the other reason? We're losing their habitat. Nice. Do we have all the reasons? Is there one more? Go ahead.
It's to protect their young.
Oh, good job.
To protect their young. Let's do a quick check. Do we have them all?
Yep.
Let's review these. Read with me. Why?
Do animals adapt? To stay alive, to find food, to escape danger, to defend themselves, to adjust to hot or cold temperatures, habitat change, living closer to people, losing their habitat, to protect their young.
So to make our chart all parallel, so when you make a chart it should all follow the same structure. This one is odd. This one's different. So we could say to adjust, just like we had to adjust to hot or cold temperatures, to adjust to habitat change. Okay? So that's the body of the text that we've read. But now there's all this other important information. So the author has included some specific examples to help us think about adaptation. So we have pictures of specific animals, and then we have captions underneath. And we are going to read those, and they are going to take your fine little eyes because the text is quite small. Okay? So we are going to start right here in this upper left-hand corner. And this is a picture of an ibis, which is a small bird. So under the picture of the ibis, you see a caption that says, "The long legs and beak of the ibis allow it to walk into shallow rivers and find food in the riverbed." So, one adaptation the ibis has made is that it has these long legs so that it can hunt for food. As I read the other adaptation descriptions, I want you to think about why that adaptation might have happened over time. Okay? Let's look at the bullfrog. A bullfrog's eyes are on top of its head. This positioning allows the frog to look out for danger without bringing the rest of its body out of the water. So, why might the frog have adapted to have these eyes on the top of its head? To stay alive, to find food, to escape danger. Does anyone have a different idea? You could use some of your discussion helper starters. So you can say, I agree with Jade, but want to add. In the back. So that, oh, yeah. So Jade said to escape danger, and you wanted to add that they might also use it to defend themselves. Jade?
To stay alive.
So do you agree with your classmate? Why don't you try this out? I agree with...
I agree with Brian, but I want to add. I want to add on in order to stay alive.
So what we see here is that there's many reasons, there's maybe not just one reason why an animal might adapt, but there's many reasons. Let's take a look at a different adaptation. Let's take a look at the crocodile. So the author here, you can see where it says in parentheses the word above. Sometimes when there's multiple pictures in a text, the author gives you directions about where to look. So this caption, we know, goes with the picture that's above. Okay? Let's read that one together. The crocodile is an animal that has remained unchanged for millions of years. Its body is well adapted to its river habitat.